G'day guys, Dane here from Clarkie's NRL column. Welcome back to League Lane with Dane, my rugby league podcast, episode 10. Today I'm joined by a very special guest, a man that was regularly asked to come back on, MrLuke Sports. How are you today, Luke?
Oh, I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Yeah, there was a lot of requests. Just today I was live on Instagram answering some questions, and someone abused my the person I had on the live with me. A little bit of abuse, and he said, "This guy sucks. Get MrLuke back on." So you are a very popular man.
Yeah, that was me on my other accounts.
All right, guys. Today's show, we're going to go over all the latest NRL news. Then, of course, we're going to go to Then versus Now, my favorite little segment. And then we'll finish with a couple fans' questions. I threw up on my Instagram earlier today a sticker, and a few people have sent in some questions. We've only chosen a select few because I was live for, I think, an hour on Instagram today, so I have answered a lot of questions as it is. Let's start the week off. Start of this week, it comes out the Sydney Roosters are set to be interviewed over the Dylan Napa situation. Some are rumoured to be having their phones seized. We're not sure as to where that's at, but the latest on Dylan Napa, the Sydney Morning Herald thinks he'll be suspended up until round 5 and possibly round 7. Now, what are your thoughts on this, Luke? I know in particular you are a Canterbury Bulldogs fan, but just, I mean, in the broader picture of NRL's consistencies to this being a fair punishment, what are your thoughts on this whole Dylan Napa situation and the potential punishment we're hearing?
I think overall it's very frustrating. Now, I understand that they probably do need to do some sort of punishment. I guess it is a bad image for the NRL, but like 5-7 weeks, that seems excessive. Seems very excessive, especially for something that happened so long ago. And then you look at other incidents happening in the NRL that don't get punished, or get something like very limited, like 1 or 2 weeks. It's very, very annoying. Like, I feel like he would have been better off actually, I don't know, bashing a guy or something instead.
Yeah, sometimes it does feel like that, certainly, especially when it happens to a member of your team. Now, one thing I spoke about on Instagram Live earlier today, and I know it's certainly something you agree with because we spoke about it before we pressed record, the contrast in difference in terms of punishments within the NRL. So Dylan Napa does a completely legal act. It's not a good look, having a wank on the couch, and it's not a good look being filmed having sex with a girl, but it's not illegal.
And it wasn't a look he was expecting to be broadcast.
Exactly. It became illegal when it was leaked or broadcasted onto the internet.
We should point out, he's not the one recording it. He's not doing this. Like, he's not looking down.
Exactly.
Whatever.
100%.
He was getting filmed.
Yeah, which Dylan Napa claims he wasn't aware. If that's true, then certainly this is an absolute way out of proportionate suspension. And one thing I likened it to on the Instagram Live was the former Australian captain Greg Inglis was caught after the Curie knockout, drink driving and speeding 20 kilometres over the speed limit. That is illegal in every sense of the word. That puts people's lives at danger. So he has to get a suspension, right? Given this punishment, in terms of how the crime fits the bill, is much worse than what Dylan Napa did. But he got a character reference from the NRL CEO. That, to me, the NRL is the largest professional rugby league competition in the entire world. If the difference in punishments is that far apart, surely someone has to look at the top and be like, hey, this isn't working. And realistically, for me, Todd Greenberg's position should be, I don't think it should be safe. Would you agree with that? Definitely.
That's pretty much what I was thinking. Like, Greenberg, I don't think he's done a great job. Now, he was at the Bulldogs and he did I thought he was a fantastic CEO, but obviously it hasn't really translated, in my opinion, to becoming the NRL CEO. I don't think he's done a good job. I don't think he ever really did a good job. I know it's a hard position. It feels like every person who steps into that role always gets slammed and said how shit they are. But I don't know. It just feels like Greenberg definitely isn't cutting the mustard.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And as we go along on the podcast, guys, one thing a few people have been doing is commenting as we go, and then at the end of the podcast pressing a big send. And it's certainly something I've been reading. So do let us know your thoughts on the Dylan Napa situation. We move to our next bit of news for the week. Robbie Farah says he's willing to take a backseat for Jacob Liddell to emerge. Now, I will read the quote. Robbie Farah stated, "I'd love to see nothing more than for Jacob to come through and force me out of first grade. I've been working really closely with him this preseason, and he's a great kid. He's willing to learn, and he works hard. He has put on 4 or 5 kilos, and I've been working hard with him on the wrestling mats, trying to get him physically ready for a big season. We are really pushing each other at training, and I'm trying to impart some of my knowledge on him. I've seen him grow, so hopefully he's in for a big season." What are your thoughts on Robbie's comments? He is really, lately, he seems to be really team first, pro team attitude. Of course, he said if a player has to walk over this salary cap restraint, it'll be me. And now he's saying he'd love nothing more than for someone else to take his position in the team. Sort of, what do you make of Robbie's comments? Is this a new Robbie Farah, or...?
It seems like it. It seems very different to what we had heard about him, say, 5-6 years ago. Seems like a total 180, but I mean, I suppose that happens when he gets older, and I suppose him playing in reserve grade probably gave him a new perspective.
Yeah,
I guess.
absolutely.
But
I would agree with that. His time in reserve grade probably changed his perspective on footy and made him realise that it is a team sport. Whereas before, I know not by myself, but by the wider NRL community, he has been criticised for being a little bit selfish.
yeah, but in terms of the Liddell thing, Little, whatever his name is, I remember when he first came into first grade, I'm pretty sure I remember watching him against the Bulldogs, and he actually played pretty well. And I was like, well, righto, he's going to be the future of the Tigers. But he's like been in and out. And like last year where Ivan Cleary was playing Elijah Taylor at hooker, and some weird selections where like he wasn't getting a go. So I don't know. Hopefully he gets a bit more of a go this year or next year. But yeah, I think he'll be all right.
Yeah, he was injured at some stages, but you are right. There was stages where Ivan Cleary was opting to play a second row lock over him. I will say this for the Tigers. There is no other clear hooker at your club. Robbie Farah is on a 1-year deal. He will likely retire at the end of 2019, so I don't think it's a bad idea pushing Liddell for a little bit more game time this year. Our next bit of news. Now, this came as a shock to some, but I certainly know from reports and people that had been going to the Rabbitohs training sessions, one Instagram page in particular, Super Coach Guru, pretty much was messaging me saying, get Corey Allen in the side. Greg Inglis looks unfit. And, you know, I get a lot of messages every day. I get a lot of people trying to send me fake rumors, trying to hurt my credibility. And certainly Supercoach Guru is a genuine guy. I'm not trying to imply that's what he was saying. But it's true. Greg Inglis, he is going to be out for the first 1 or 2 rounds this year. And the biggest, literally, the biggest news of this all is he is 15 kilograms overweight, Luke.
Yeah, it reminds me of I can't remember if he was at the Rabbitohs or if he was at the Storm then, but there was a few years ago where he was like massive in the off season, maybe like 2010, 2011, 2012. Like it was a fair while ago, but it seems to be kind of his thing.
Yeah, my point of view though, and tell me if you disagree with this, former Australian captain, current Queensland Maroon captain of his club. How do you sit at home and put on 15 kilograms and not once think, hey, I'm getting a bit big, I'm a leader of my club, do you know what I mean? Am I off the mark here? Is he entitled to enjoy the Christmas ham a little bit too much? Or because for me, this dude's a professional athlete.
Yeah, there's enjoying it, and then there's like 15 kilos enjoying it. Like that's a lot to put on in a few months.
Yeah, certainly didn't help that he got caught, drink driving, because obviously the GI's been on the beers jokes are at an all-time high. And this is something I spoke about, I can't remember who, with a friend earlier today. I said, Greg Inglis, if he never drank drove, he should have retired this year as the Queensland skipper and the Australian skipper, because with these knee injuries really hampering his career, we've seen it with Darius Boyd. Darius Boyd is not rated at all by the NRL community due to 2018. Because outside backs need their knees. They need speed. They need acceleration. They need change of direction. Do you think it's too early for me to be talking about GI should have retired? Or do you still think he has some good years ahead of him?
I think he's got. Well, he's announced his retirement for next year, right? Like this is going to be his last year
This
as
will
a
be his
representative
last year as a
player,
rep player. Yeah.
and then the following year's last year is an NRL player. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah.
I think that's probably the right. I think he can get through these next few years, but I hope it's not one of those ones where, like, kind of like Thurston, where you go, "Oh man, I kind of wish you retired last year or
Yeah.
year
And
before."
certainly Thurston didn't have a bad year, but it wasn't the JT we know and love.
Yeah, that's
And
exactly it.
I can't help but fear the same for Greg Inglis. And I also think the reason he's talking about retirement is because deep down he realizes it himself, but he wants to give himself every opportunity. So we will move on to our next bit of news, but we will stay with the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Tom Burgess re-signs until the end of the 2023 season, but his twin brother George could be going down a different path. He is linked with former head coach Anthony Seibold at the Brisbane Broncos. We're not sure whether that's from 2019 or 2020. His current contract with the Rabbitohs expires at the end of this season. But what do you think's sort of going on here for the Rabbitohs to re-sign one of the twins whilst the rumours are on the internet about the other? Do you think it was just a coincidence, or do you think there's a deeper meaning at play there?
I think that it might be a bit of a coincidence, but maybe not. I don't know. I guess where there's smoke, there's fire, but I don't know. Do you actually see him signing with the Broncos?
No, I don't see him going to the Broncos. They've already got a pretty powerful front row pairing of Matt Lodge, Joe Offahengawi, three of the brightest young forwards coming through the game for Fafita, Sua, and Haas. They've got depth. They've got Sean Fensom, Sam Tagatese. I don't see him. He would make the Broncos top 17, but they'd be hindering the progression of their young stars, right?
Yeah, and also I honestly just can't see any of the Burgess lads sort of splitting up, especially the two twins. And like I feel like Sam's got a lot of power there, I guess.
Yeah. Yep.
So don't want to disrupt anything with him, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. It should also be stated George Burgess did knock back a contract offer from the Eels that could have commenced in 2019, the start of this year. So perhaps he is keen to remain a Rabbitoh, and this is all just a coincidence. The only thing I can see at play here is we know the Rabbitohs are short on cash. They weren't able to, or they're still not able to re-sign Robert Jennings.
See, I'm confused as to why they are. Like, why are they in such like financial troubles? I can't figure out why. Like, Damien Cook would be on big.
Well, yeah, well, that's it. I think
coin,
that'd probably be where it came from, because Damien Cook, if you think back to the year before this, was sharing game time with Robbie Farah. So we're probably looking at a 300, 400k contract. He just re-signed for like 900k a year.
But it's just like they've just lost Crichton.
Yeah.
Sutton re-signed.
Yeah, Sutton has re-signed. Not on the money he wanted, though, from what I hear. He wanted a lot more, and that's why the negotiations were held for so long. In the end.
I mean, they brought in Gagai. What I assume would be a fair-sized contract, but it's not like their team's full of superstars.
Yeah, well, they are still
so
making some signings. They signed Liam Knight and Corey Dennis, fringe first graders, and they recently re-signed Braden Burns until the end of the 2021 season. So,
is he the winger, centre?
Yeah, winger centre. I think John Sutton retires at the end of this year, very likely, and they instantly sort out a deal for George Burgess then, with whatever money they can in the cap.
Yeah, that's probably the case, to be honest.
Like you said, with his brothers at the club, they're not really a chance of, or as we've seen, the Eels come in and tried to offer him more money, and he's already said no once. I'm inclined to think he stays loyal to the Rabbitohs. We'll move on to our next bit of news. The Brisbane Broncos. Jermaine Asako, Cody Nikorima, Andrew McCullough, and Anthony Milford attend an AFL camp with the North Melbourne Kangaroos. Primarily focused on developing their kicking skills. What are your thoughts on this? Is this a good initiative? Do you think more NRL teams should follow suit, or do you think this is one code, this is another code?
I think it's a good move. I'm kind of surprised more teams haven't done it. I feel like the Storm have done it in the past. Yeah. Maybe not kicking, but they've definitely done work with AFL teams. Yeah. Because I think they used to train right near St Kilda, maybe. Mm-hmm. But I mean, you look at those positions, like how handy is it having a fullback with a kicking game or a hooker with a good kicking game? So I feel like it's a good move.
Yeah, I agree. And also not just in terms of on-field abilities, also off-field abilities. I feel like the NRL could take a page out of AFL players in terms of professionalism. Obviously, AFL is a larger sport, yet we hear about less scandals.
There was one today I saw on the news though,
Oh, there was.
which is interesting.
Oh,
Yeah, a guy snorting some stuff off a girl.
oh, okay.
But
Interesting.
yeah, maybe not up to NRL drama levels, but there was some.
Yeah, the AFL boys are certainly a little more tame. You are correct on the Melbourne Storm, though. They do have a close working relationship with St Kilda. So much so, Billy Slater signed a deal with St Kilda, a 1-year deal, as sort of like a development coach with them. I'm not sure.
What a traitor.
Yeah, I'm not sure as to what his role is. To me, it's more of a gimmick role. But
Yeah.
one thing about the Storm is every single winger has been incredible under the high ball. Scissor Wonga, Suliasu Vunivalu, Marika Korobetti, Josh Adokar. Every single one of their wingers, I can't think of any more off the top of my head, but every single one of their wingers from the past at least 5 years, you can just picture them so vividly under the high ball, scoring spectacular tries, right?
Yeah, but even then, like players before, like they had like Steve Turner and stuff who was small. Because initially I was thinking, oh, it's just because they got the Fijians. Fijians are good outside backs, but even like little Steve Turner was safe as under the high ball, and he was at the Storm. I think Anthony Quinn was there. Like even you go way back, they were pretty good under the high ball. So yeah.
Big Matty Geyer, who ended up being a teacher at my school.
Oh wow!
Yeah, really weird story. So this new teacher walks past, and all my friends and we were sitting like at a table with a bunch of my mates, a couple girls and stuff at high school, and this dude goes, "Oh look, it's the new teacher." I've turned around and gone, "That's not a teacher, that's Matt Geyer." And everyone's like, "Who?" And I just ran up. I was like, "Matt." "Matt, what's going on?" And he's, "Oh, I'm a teacher here." I was like, "Oh, sorry, Mr. Geyer." Like, really.
Was he? Let me guess. Was he a PE teacher?
PE English, I believe. He also coaches.
Well, I had Well, at my school, I had Steve Morris, like Brett and Josh's dad. He was a PE teacher.
Yeah.
So that seems to be the go-to for the former players.
Yeah.
Be a PE teacher.
Straight into the PE role. Yeah. Well, I mean, NRL players all seem to follow like a pretty similar path in retirement: media, coaching, teaching in some facet. I guess you do learn a lot of skills during your time in the NRL, so it is good to see them giving back to the next generation.
It seems like every man and their dog, like all the players, they're all going into the media, or that's the goal. They all want to be on Fox Sports.
Yeah, I just think with some of them, I won't name particular names. You can tell when they're reading off a script. And yeah, the example before games, he goes, "This is a great game between the Titans and the Warriors, and the last 3 games they've met, it ended in..." And you can just... It's so scripted. Like, it's not like a bloke talking footy. It's like a news reporter almost. But okay.
And also, I find some of them, when they do the commentating, they feel that screaming, like everything is how to commentate. And I'm just like, man, not everything's like an exciting play. Don't need to scream about everything.
I guess it goes back to just because you're a good player doesn't mean you'll be a good coach.
That's it.
Etc. We'll move on to our next bit of news. AJ Brimson is set to start in the halves for the Gold Coast Titans. I'll go first because obviously I'm a huge Titans fan, guys, wearing the 2019 membership hat. If you're not a member yet, make sure you sign up.
Hey, I never would have picked you as a Titans fan. You should have mentioned it.
I get it so much on my column. If I say something good about the Titans, people will comment, "This page sucks. You've shown yourself to be a one-eyed Titans fan," stuff like that. So
you in my opinion, you need to do a Titans podcast.
Yeah, just talk Titans.
You get on there with your Titans hats and Titans jersey.
Yeah, Titans, those little temporary face tattoos.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, this is a win-win. I mean, Michael Gordon, for me, is the most underrated player in NRL history. Another year of him at the back, his leadership, most importantly, his goal kicking. It can't be a bad thing for me. It gives AJ Brimson another year to continue to develop his skills alongside Ash Taylor. The only bad side that I see to this is we have signed Riley Jackson, Tyrone Roberts. I think Mitch Rain keeps the bench utility role. So we've signed 2 halfbacks to play reserve grade if this proves true. But if it's not true, on the flip side, we've got Michael Gordon, like I said, one of the most underrated players of all time, and our goal kicker in reserve grade. So, AJ Brimson halves, do you like it for us, or do you think, he should be fullback?
No, I like it. I think that's the right move for this year. I mean, obviously Michael Gordon might be his last year. probably will be his last year, at least at the Titans.
Yeah,
But I think he's definitely like the best. He might not be the best fullback, but it's the best thing for the team having Brimson in the halves. Plus, I think it would develop him a lot more, get the playmaking. So when he does move to fullback, it'll just make him that little bit extra better, I guess.
Yeah, a little bit more playmaking ability, a bit more
Yeah.
of a kicking role within the team. Yeah, on what you said about Michael Gordon, on the Q&A he did for my story, he said this is his last year in the NRL. He's going to play football for one more year for the Tweed, some team that he played as with a junior. So he's going to go back.
Actually, yeah, I saw him that. Was that where he was talking up Queensland? I think I remember that.
Yeah, going to give back to grassroots footy. So good to see there by Flash. Like I said,
I kind of forget he actually played for New South Wales.
Yeah, he played one game for the
Panthers.
Yeah,
and I remember it was like a popular decision. I'm pretty sure. Like he's actually having a pretty good year.
Yeah, see, I feel sorry for Flash. He's such a great player, but every club he's gone to, he seems to get promised the fullback role and then put on the wing. Happened at the Eels, happened at the Sharks. And
when he first said that he wanted to play fullback when he was at, I think it was at Panthers, that's when he wanted to play, and then he left. I remember thinking, oh, he's just a winger. He won't be any good at fullback, but he's actually pretty good. But he kind of lacks the ball playing that they all want the fullbacks to have. But he's so safe. So
absolutely, I remember
he's definitely a spot for him.
Yeah, one time in Canberra here, it was that windy, you could barely walk outside, and the Roosters peppered him with bombs. Sorry, the Raiders, while he was playing for the Roosters, peppered him all game with huge bombs. I don't think he made one error the whole game. So like you said, safe as houses. We'll move on to the 2018 Golden Boot winner. Tommy Mackinson was previously rumoured to be interested in coming to the NRL. He re-signs with the St. Helens Super League franchise until the end of the 2022 season. He'll be 32, 33 at the end of that contract, which to me rules out an NRL chance for him. Are you bummed? Couldn't care less? What are your thoughts on Mackinson?
It doesn't really bother me that he's not coming to the NRL because I don't really know much about him. But I will say, I remember I watched one of your Instagram Q&As. I think was his name McGilvery, the winger. I watched that and it kind of gave me a different perspective on just the English players coming over to Australia. Like you immediately think, yeah, like football wise, why wouldn't they come to Australia? And then you realize, oh yeah, this isn't just like moving to Queensland, like moving from New South Wales to Queensland. This is like a whole nother country. Some of them got families, like they don't want to leave their families. So just moving out to Australia and the NRL isn't quite as simple. So I understand him.
Yeah, I don't know whether it was Jermaine McGilvery's accent or what it was, but that was my favourite player Q&A I've done, and I've done about 20 now.
I know, right? Definitely the accent.
Yeah, I don't know. Something about it, I couldn't click off. I was super keen to keep watching that. But I did compare Tommy Mackinson's Super League stats in 2018. I think he scored 11 tries. Ben Barber scored 28. That's obviously, he's the winger. Ben Barber's the fullback. Typically, wings do score more tries. And then I compared him to a couple of former NRL players. Greg Eden, never really a star over here. Actually, pretty bad player.
Was he a Broncos guy?
Yeah, pretty bad player by NRL standards. He scored 15, so he scored more tries. And then we look at David Mead, who, was very consistent for us at the Titans, but at the same time was never a star NRL winger. And remember, we are comparing him to the Golden Boot winner, the best player in the world. David Mead had 16 tries. And
this is old David Mead. This isn't even like peak David Mead.
Exactly. If we're comparing his club performances under the old criteria for Golden Boot, obviously under the new one, only international games are considered. Under the old criteria, he's not even top 50 for this award.
Yeah, I feel like their outside backs in the Super League they're just nowhere near NRL standard. Maybe a few, but yeah, as we saw, like when Barber, he goes over there, like he was a very good player in the NRL when he was at the Sharks and that, and then he just goes over. You just knew he was going to be like the best player in the league, and he ended up being the best player in the league.
Yeah, I think it might be like their try line is like 5 meters. So they don't.
Yeah, it's a very small one.
Yeah, they don't practice finishing as much as our players do, I suppose.
You'd think they would, like that's what they would be doing though.
Yeah, you'd think so.
Like with such a smaller one, but
yeah,
I don't know.
It's a bit of a tough one. But yeah, I'm certainly not bummed we won't see him play in the NRL. I'm happy to see him retire.
Well, do you think it's just a case of all the ones, like all the wingers and stuff who are so good athletically, just go and play soccer?
Well, it's just not a popular sport over there. I mean, the NRL refuses to move games from ANZ or Allianz to 20,000 seat stadiums in fear of not getting enough tickets. You watch a Super League game, most of their stadiums look like they hold 6,000, and they're not full. So
They usually get good atmospheres though. But it's like what I meant with that is, so like they have their forwards are usually pretty good. You know, James Graham, Hodgson. The forwards seem to have Burgess. They don't seem to have a problem coming to the NRL, but it's the backs, and I'm thinking it's just because they're just not as athletically good. Like with the forwards, those forwards wouldn't be playing soccer. You know what I mean? Like they're sort of too big to be a good soccer player.
Mm-hmm.
Where wingers maybe athletically good enough where they could play soccer, like they'd still be faster than everybody else. So
yeah, that makes sense. Also, I suppose.
I don't know.
Ryan Hall, Sydney Roosters. Do you have him starting for the Roosters, or do you think you ease him back because of the ACL injury? That
I think Brett Morris over him.
Yeah, same.
I think you go for the proven player. I think in the NRL.
Proven player, but he also plays fullback, which I think helps the Chooks when Tedesco goes for Origin. Let's face it, Tedesco could have probably the worst year. He'd still get selected in that Blues side.
Yeah, but Brett Morris, like when I watched him at the Bulldogs, I loved Brett Morris in the side. The only problem was like it seemed like every few games he'd get injured. So yeah. I don't know. Maybe between him and Ryan Hall, they might be able to finish the season.
Finish the whole 25 games, absolutely. Our next bit of news, we go back to Melbourne. Jesse Bromwich and Dale Finucane are named co-vice captains of the Melbourne Storm. Sounds like a little bit of a gimmick role, I suppose, but to me, this shows the club preparing for life after Cameron Smith. Would these two men have been your choice as the future co-captains, or would you have gone with a different player for Melbourne Storm?
No, I think they're the right player. Like you said, it does seem a bit gimmicky to do a press conference and kind of make it a big deal. So I've kind of figured they would have already been in the leadership group, yeah. So I wouldn't think it'd be too much of a difference. But I suppose that's an indication that they've pretty much come out and said, this is going to be a captain and vice captain once Cameron Smith's gone in a few years. So I guess it narrows it down completely. Yeah,
one man I know that they certainly were grooming for leadership was Cameron Munster.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
That's a little bit too soon for him. And I suppose Jesse Bromwich is the former captain of the New Zealand Kiwis. He didn't lose it via his inability to captain. He lost it because obviously what happened with the cocaine situation. So he is the obvious choice. Perhaps, like you said, Cameron Munster is a part of that leadership group. What else? What about the Storm? They've ditched cheerleaders. They're going to have a street crew, they're dubbing it, to do some dance moves.
Yeah, I saw that.
Was the Instagram video cringy, or was it just me?
I didn't see the Instagram video, but I saw that they had got rid of it. I suppose if they're dancing and stuff, there's not too big of a difference. I just don't like when they get rid of it and go all PC, like completely PC. Go for drummers and stuff.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you how the video went. There was a female and a bloke, and they were doing cartwheels, and afterwards they'd lean on each other and cross their arms.
Oh, no.
They'd give each other high fives and then do a backflip.
I know what I'm doing after this.
Oh, yeah.
Not watching that video.
Yeah,
no, I'm going to watch it 5 times in a row.
Yeah, That probably should have been Greg Inglis's punishment, in my opinion. He should have been made to watch that video and repeat for 10 hours.
That could have been it. They should have said, Dylan Napa, this is your punishment. 7 weeks of watching this.
Yeah, it's not a good video, man. Certainly not one I would encourage any of our viewers to go out and have a watch.
So it's not even like so bad it's good. It's just plain bad.
Just plain cringe and awkward. Like...
It sounds right up my alley. I've got to watch it.
Yeah. Certainly the cheerleaders is my choice of where to choose. But let's move on to the Maori All-Stars team, which has been announced. Have you seen the team list already?
Yep.
What are your thoughts on the Maori's team list? Any changes you'd make straight away? Or
not really. I mean, to be honest, I kind of don't really know who's Maori and who's not. But, I mean, if you look at the side, a lot of them's in the New Zealand team. So,
yeah.
A lot of them have played together.
Mm.
And then the ones that they've added in, like Kalen Ponga and even like Dane Gagai, are pretty good additions to the
Yeah.
side.
Yeah. One thing I've noticed is straight away with the teams is the Maori's forward pack, and keep in mind, I believe this game is being played 1 to 20. Their forward pack is so much stronger than the Indigenous side. So listen to this. Bromwich, Brandon Smith, McLean, Proctor, Harris, Blair, Levi, Takarangi, Fisher Harris, Tarmow, Beale, Corey Harawira Naira, and Joseph Tapane. A lot of big name forwards in there, right? We'll move
Very
on to
big
the
names.
Indigenous forward pack. Andrew Fafita, big name. Nathan Peets, big name. Number 10 was Ryan James. That will be Josh Kerr now, a reserve grader for the St. George Illawarra Dragons. David Fafita.
Never heard of him.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of him until this either, if I'm being honest. David Fafita, Adam Elliott. This is where I start to get concerned for the Indigenous All-Stars when they go to their bench and extended bench for this match against that, like we said, a very powerful forward pack. These are the men that will be going up against all those forwards. Will Chambers, centre. Leilani Latu, prop. Chris Smith, prop. Alex Johnston, fullback. Jesse Ramian, centre. Tyrell Fumeono, centre. Katoni Staggs, centre. To me, if they don't play their cards right and play some, really expansive football, throwing it out wide unconventionally on the first or second, trying to tire out those big men in the middle, they're gonna be in some trouble, right? That Maori team can realistically go straight through the middle all night if they want to.
Yeah, well, that's pretty much it. I think they're going to be relying on Fafita to carry that forward pack.
Yeah, and of course...
But in a defense, well, not defense, but even like in the old All-Star format, like this was kind of similar. Their forward packs were kind of weak.
Mm-hmm.
Like you get to the reserves and there'd always be reserve grade players and that sort of stuff. So I don't know if there just is a lack of like quality forwards for their team or what's the go.
One thing I'd be concerned about if I was a Parramatta Eels fan, Brad Fittler, Laurie Daly, my bad, is the coach of the All-Stars. And he's told Blake Ferguson at some stage in this game, you're shifting to the forward pack. If I'm the Eels, this guy's just had off-season foot surgery. We've just paid a heap of money for this guy. He's our star off-season signing. And you're going to take him off the wing and play him in the forward pack? Like, I understand he did have the most meters, most post-contact, most runs in the NRL for 2018. If you were going to pick a winger 2 shift, it makes sense for Ferguson. But if I'm the Eels, I'm like, nah, leave him on the wing or he's picked up an injury. Yeah,
it's a crazy thought. It could be okay. They could just play some forwards in the forwards.
Yeah. My final thoughts, like I said, the Maori All-Stars team, if they go up the middle and, get the fast play the balls, get the roll on, especially with Danny Levi injecting into the game late, I think they win this game. That being said, the Indigenous All-Stars backs have them all over for speed. Roberts, Addo-Carr, Ramian, Johnston, Staggs, Chambers. If they can play a really expansive type of footy, which Cody Walker is certainly capable of as their half, I think they could get the win. That being said, my final prediction is the Maori All-Stars, as I just do a little burp, 16-12. I'm tipping a low-scoring game. Despite...
I think that's pretty fitting.
Yeah, I know a few people are predicting a high-scoring game because of obviously the talent on display. But we have to remember, they're not just offensively great players, they're also defensively great players. So, yeah, 16-12, Maori All-Stars win is my prediction. What is your final prediction, Luke?
I might go 22-10 to the Maori All-Stars.
There you go. You heard it here first, guys. And if that does get up, you know where you heard it first. Channel 9 is reporting the Cronulla Sharks could be set to lose, and I'm not joking here, this was their terminology, a serious player. Now, I don't personally know any first graders that are considered not serious. Like, you know what I mean? Imagine if that headline was reversed. Sharks set to lose non-serious first grader. What?
Hey.
I mean, it's a super weird term, but sort of...
They've only narrowed it down to everybody.
Yeah. When I had a look through their roster, I thought it could have only been one man. Sasai Feki. He was previously rumoured with a move to the Bulldogs sometime in 2018. I believe he's only signed for the 2019 season. And they do have Bronson Xerri coming up through the ranks.
And he also is a very serious person too.
Yeah, that also was the biggest giveaway. But, they're Sharks top 30. Who do you think it could be if you were to take a guess realistically?
I honestly don't know. I need to go into their profile pictures and see who's not smiling.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to crack this code set by
maybe
Channel 9's Danny Weidler.
Honestly, maybe like Matt Pryor or someone. I don't even know. I find it weird that they would have to lose someone after just signing Sean Johnson like last minute. Seems weird, but
the only other person that comes to my mind when I think
Dugan.
More Kyle Flanagan. A young player that has potential, but like you said, they did
that's fair.
Sean Johnson long term. I believe he did have he recently re-signed as well, but he does have a get out clause, I believe, if his dad wasn't the coach. So that makes sense. We'll stay with the Sharks, but we'll go to our next bit of news. John Morris, head coach. Do you like it? You don't like it?
I don't really have an opinion on it. Like he's unproved, like, you know what I mean? Like, he's never coached before, so we don't really know. Who is he up against? Like Trent Barrett?
Well, Trent Barrett
like
was rumoured, but I never saw that coming to fruition. He's getting paid by Manly right now to sit on the couch. I think he's on.
I saw like 50 something grand. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who are the other ones? Like maybe like Jin Dimick and Serrato.
The other one that was officially interviewed was Cameron Serrato, Penrith Panthers assistant.
But like, there's no one, like, it's not like they're interviewing like Hasler or someone who is on the market, like established first grade coaches. These are all still pretty unproven ones. So John Morris is probably no worse than any of the others. So I suppose may as well keep the guy who's been around the club for a while. Yeah,
100% agree with you. He did win the new NYC competition in 2017. The last year it was there. So he does have that on his coaching credential, I suppose. But most
also, he did play like over 300 games.
Yeah, he's a 300 gamer.
Yeah, he's probably the most like least impressive player to ever play like 300 games. But
yeah, I'd agree.
300 games, there's got to be a reason why he kept getting picked. So
yeah, I guess for me, like you said, there's no experienced coaches on the market at the moment, or that the Sharks were interested in dealing with. And to change the coach this late into a preseason would be super disruptive. So it just made sense for him to stick with John Morris, right?
Yeah, and also like he's played at the club. The fans like him, so
yeah, likable
may as well.
And yeah, like you said, fan favorite. Boxing. Hopper Wati vows to end Paul Gallen's boxing career and his rugby league career. What's your prediction for this fight? I mean, yeah, the pre-fight talk is cringy.
I'm loving the Andrew Fafita videos. Did you see the video where he's in the locker room? They've got Paul Gallen's locker. It's going down all his credentials, and he gets to the bottom. Got knocked out first round for Hopewadi. Yeah. I was dying at that.
Yeah, the first video I shared of Fafita and him talking crap in the backyard there, that got so many views. The promoter is offering me free tickets to the event.
Are you going to go to it?
Oh, well, I'm moving out of my apartment here in Sydney at the moment. As you guys can see, there's no sign stuff behind me at the moment. Oh God, I made a massive mistake. All the blue tack and double-sided tape stuck to the wall.
Oh no.
So I couldn't get it off. So I had to get someone to replaster it and paint it $500 later. Just to film a couple of videos with signed shit behind me. So yeah, big mistake there.
Bloody blue tack.
That's what I said. If they put that on the packet, no one would buy your stuff. It may damage your walls and cost you $500. So I don't know whether I'm going to go or not. If I don't go and I can still get the tickets, I'll probably do a giveaway or just give them to someone on the page, I suppose. My prediction, nice little shout there, I like it. My prediction, I think Paul Gallen wins via late stoppage or unanimous decision. I think Hopper's really only chances in the first couple rounds to land that big blow. But I think Paul Gallen is experienced enough as a boxer now to avoid that pretty much kill shot early in the rounds. What's your prediction for the fight?
Yeah, I think Gallen will win. Usually with these sort of footy ones, there's no like straight up KO. There might be a stoppage, but there's no like straight up just knockout.
Yeah.
So I can see it being stopped later on. But I don't know, is Hopewadi actually a boxer? Like, does he box much?
Well, he was the Australian heavyweight champion at one stage, but Australian boxing is that thin. Realistically, he didn't beat any notable fighters to get to that level.
But at least he'll be in shape. Some of these footy players take on guys, and you're like, man, I could do better than him.
Yeah, Junior Paulo a couple of years ago when he fought. Are you a fan of these sort of NRL boxing fights, or you don't like them?
It all depends on who. Like, sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't. This one, I've kind of like, man, I don't really like. I'm not super excited for it or anything, but like when Sonny Bill was fighting, like I'd have a look at it. Like I'll definitely have a look at it and like watch it, but it's not something I get super hyped about or anything.
Yeah, there's not really any decent promos online. I made one real quick. It took me like an hour, and that's got about 5,000 views or whatever. But I don't know. The promotion, I believe it's No Limits. They probably could have done a better job in terms of video promotions, vlogs. Like in the modern day, creating hype for a fight is, if not, like it's probably more important than the actual fight.
Definitely. I mean, look at the YouTube scene right now. Everyone's trying to box each other. Yeah. None of them can actually box, but they create a lot of hype. People watch. It's just, I think it's especially a lot easier in the social media age as well. So you think they get about it a lot more.
Absolutely. We both agree. Paul Gallant and the Sportsbet market certainly agrees. They have him at $1.08 favourite. Braden Burns.
$1.08. Put him in your multi.
Yeah, it's basically, for those odds, you would assume, a free leg. Braden Burns re-signs until the end of the 2021 season with South Sydney Rabbitohs. We did speak about the Rabbitohs a little bit earlier. We'll talk about him again now. Do you see him locking down a starting spot in the top 17?
Well, who else have they got that could play on the wing? Like Jennings is not going to be there.
Yeah,
I wouldn't think.
I think Johnson slots straight onto Jennings' wing.
But will Johnson maybe end up at the Cowboys?
If he ends up at the Cowboys, I think you can almost guarantee Braden Burns. But if the rumours are of Greg Inglis being injured true, he won't be there for round 1 or 2. I think he starts the year in centre with Alex Johnson outside him. I think the other side is Campbell Graham and Dane Gagai with rookie Corey Allen at fullback.
Yeah, I think that's probably what they'll go for.
Braden Burns,
like a full strength one anyways.
Yeah. A lot of people are excited to see a little bit more footy out of Braden Burns. It's going to be tough for him, though, with Gagai at centre and Greg Inglis, still there for another 2 years. He's more or less stuck waiting for an injury before he can get his real first shot.
Yeah, at the moment, unfortunately for him, he's just a depth player for now.
Well, a lot of people think he does have the talent to go to the next level. Let's move to the biggest news, probably the biggest story this off-season. You probably already can guess. Benjamin Barber strikes again. He has officially been terminated. Oh, God. I shouldn't laugh, but yeah, literally. He has been terminated by the NRL. Likely rubbed out of the game forever. My stance on this is absolutely get rid of him. Do you agree?
Yep, definitely. I think there's no other option, really.
Yeah, there really isn't. And as soon as the report came out, I knew he would have had to have done something pretty serious for, the allegations to be career-ending. Yeah,
but, the second I think it was Danny Widler started tweeting, like, oh, if it's true, he'll be rubbed out of the NRL forever. And because of his history, I'm Bulldog spotter, I'm well aware, 2013 and all that sort of stuff. My first thought was bash his missus. Now, it turns out he's throwing rocks or something like that. But, still.
Well, the story for now that we can 100% confirm, I'm reading all the updates I've put up over the past couple of days. That's how busy I am on that page. I don't even remember. Allegedly physically assaulting his partner at the Townsville casino. The footage was seen by witnesses, including teammates. But most importantly, it is on CCTV footage. I wrote up a very interesting column today, which has gained 1,000 likes on Instagram. But pretty much, I'll summarize it real quick. She's now come out and asked the North Queensland Cowboys to reconsider their stance. To me, you can keep him. That doesn't mean the Cowboys have to keep him or the NRL has to keep him, love. Allegedly, the CCT footage shows Barber, this is the use of the word of the Townsville Bulletin, hurl rocks at her. I've said he's almost, he's permanently out of the NRL. Queensland Police are continuing their investigation. But this is where it gets a little bit weird. They spent 7 hours in the casino, and immediately after he threw the rocks at her, they got into the same taxi together. And then they got seen the next day having lunch together. So you did bring up the 2013 alleged incident where that remained private. She wanted this one to remain private as well, obviously with witnesses and CCTV footage. I had someone message my page who was a security guard at the Townsville Casino. Apparently they were all really shocked and taken aback by it. It's no real surprise to me as to, why this went public so quick. And I'll just finish by saying Cowboys coach Paul Green stated there was absolutely no signs of any issues and he was really shocked by it all. But wow, throwing rocks at your partner, getting in the same taxi moments later, and then you're at lunch the very next day.
Yeah, it's just like business as usual.
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't want to speculate anything, but that's strange to me. That's very strange.
Who even throws rocks?
Yeah, and look, we must still say the word allegedly is tied to all of this. I can't stress that enough. But, for the Cowboys to terminate him instantly, they've obviously seen the footage and determined straight away, well, he's screwed. This is a breach of what we stand for. See you later, Benny.
Also, for Greenberg, the NRL to actually talk about it and throw around the word domestic violence, so it's definitely happened.
Yeah, what were your thoughts on Greg Bird's comments? I'll get the thing. He said, "If you're violent against women, you can expect to be removed from the game." I'm happy with that, but
I'm happy with it. Just make sure they stand by that.
But it's how he finished the statement that concerns me, Luke.
What did he say?
Now.
Yeah, it seems weird.
It's against the law, so why is it starting now?
Yeah, it seems weird that, that sort of stuff, but we had guys like Kirisa Marval and all that, running around wearing their pink women in league shirts and all those sort of stuff.
Everyone makes mistakes, but for the NRL CEO, like we said, a man at the top of professional rugby league worldwide, to say it starts now. You could have just had the first statement. Now, the question I need to ask is, why does it start now? Why does something that is completely deemed illegal and unacceptable by society, why does it start now in terms of players being properly punished for it?
It's a weird one. It's one that I don't think anyone will actually be able to figure out. It's weird.
It'll be one of those things where if he gets questioned about it, the media have twisted his words or whatever, and nothing more will be said of it. But for me, certainly a very weird statement. Another man that hasn't been sacked, but a lot of punters are tipping him to be sacked, Ricky Stewart. Now,
that was such a smooth transition, just got to say.
Yeah, I do try to do these transitions a little bit smooth. It is hard when I need to burp every second from talking too much. But Canberra Raiders coach Ricky Stewart responded to the criticism online of those saying he'll be the first coach sacked in 2019. This is a little extract of his full statement. When he was asked what his thoughts were about it and if he's a little bit worried, he said, "Why wouldn't I be? I haven't made the 8 in the last 2 years." But then he throws a little bit of shade in there. He gets a little bit cheeky, Ricky. And he says, "I'm sorry to disappoint anybody, but I'm here for another 2 years." Luke, what are your thoughts? Is he correct, or he's not going to be there for 2 more years? What are you thinking?
It's such a Ricky Stewart response, but
yeah,
they haven't. Apart from that 1 year, the 1 year where they come second, made the top 4,
2016,
something like that.
I believe. Yeah.
Apart from that 1 year, they haven't really done anything under his reign. They haven't really. They kind of just sort of stay around the same ability, if not getting worse.
Yeah.
But there's never really heaps of pressure on him. Oh, he's definitely going to be the next one sacked. There's no real talk of it.
And he's so used to blaming other people that he's even deluded the fans. I'm not going to name fans, but these are some of the this is one comment on the Instagram. It's not his fault Edric Lee can't catch the ball. What does a person that left your club 2 or 3 years ago?
I know they're referring to the
when he dropped the ball.
He dropped the ball.
Yeah,
but I don't even think that would have won them the game. I can't remember.
Top comment on Facebook. It's not Ricky's fault we keep getting robbed by referees. And in the 2016 final, we had Butterfingers Edric Lee. So Ricky deserves to be coach. They're all naming one particular incident as opposed to the other 50 plus games in that time where he failed to deliver.
Yeah, that's it. Like, everyone can acknowledge they had one good year, but like, it was one good year. They didn't back it up the next year. They didn't back it up the year after that. Like,
yeah,
and it's not like they've lost a whole bunch of players either. They have got pretty unlucky with some injuries as of late.
Yeah, Todd Marr makes a good comment. He said, I'm not a Raiders supporter, but the last few seasons the Raiders have shown they're capable of beating anyone. That's true. They have pipped almost every single top team at least a couple times each season. Then he goes, it's not Ricky's fault they've thrown away more leads than an electrician.
It might not be his fault, but he's the one who's controlling, bringing the players in and selecting these players week in, week out. So,
yeah, I think, if you're asking my personal opinion, if the Raiders have I don't think this year, unless they have a terrible start, but if they miss the 8 at the end of this year, I see Ricky moved on. My prediction for first coach sacked. Well, we'll save that for the fan Q&A, actually, which we will get onto after we do Then Verse Now, a segment where we bring up a old player and a new player. We compare them, and we choose who we would sign for our club if we could only sign one of them. Let's go first to Brisbane Broncos outside backs. Carmichael Hunt versus Jermaine Asako. Luke, who do you sign to your club and why?
I go Carmichael Hunt. A big fan of Carmichael Hunt back in the day. Was one of my favourites. Just he's like no fear as a fullback. It was great. He was pretty good. Like ball playing. Would have been interesting to see if he had come back to rugby league rather than go to union. Like after playing AFL. Yeah. Like I know he wasn't the best AFL player, but just developing the kicking game a bit more. I think it would have been really nice to have seen what he could have done. Asako still a bit unproven, but definitely a lot of talent. Like I wonder how good Asako ended up being, but for now, like Carmichael Hunt, we know he was a fantastic player, and probably I wonder if we would have been talking about him being like the best fullback instead of maybe Billy Slater, because I'm pretty sure he was still the fullback up until he left for like Queensland and Australian stuff.
Yeah, Bill was on the wing. I'm pretty sure also. I'll go the opposite. I'll go Jermaine Asako. The ceiling's pretty high on this kid, and we've only seen what he's capable of so far on the wing. He is primarily a fullback. I think when he makes the transition to fullback, his game just goes to a whole another level. From what we saw in 2018, he won the Broncos the game against the Roosters by scoring that miraculous try. He won them the game against the West Tigers by kicking the 2, and he won them the game against someone else by kicking a field goal. So this kid is so clutch, and he can win the game in any way, as he's shown in 2018. So I'll go Jermaine Asako, although I do acknowledge Carmichael Hunt has had a spectacular sporting career. Our next Then Verse Now is a question I put up on my social medias earlier this week. If you could only take one pair of brothers, we're going to separate them now one by one. 2 Manly legends. Snake, Brett Stewart, or Tommy Turbo, Tom Travojevic. Luke, who do you sign to your club and why?
I think I'd say Tom Travojevic. Brett Stewart, one of my favourite players, hands down. Like I love Brett Stewart, but injuries sort of derailed him a fair bit. But Tom Travojevic, he's a great ball player. I know Brett Stewart ended up being a real good ball player, but like Tom Travojevic, he's pretty good. He can kind of do it all. He can do it all.
Yeah, so, I'll agree. I'll go Tom Travojevic just because he's a natural footballer, and that's not to say that Brett Stewart wasn't. Tom is just a natural footballer, unlike not many people have the instinctual playmaking ability, the ability to hit the gap and accelerate.
And also he's got good versatility too.
Absolutely. He's a competitor in every sense of the word. And the ceiling on Tom is, at this stage of his career, still quite young. Almost the sky is the limit as to what we could say about his career 10 years from now on League Lane with Dane, episode 500. We'll move on to the next set of brothers, Glen Stewart or Jake Travojevic. I'll go first for this one. I'll take Jake. To me, Jake is probably the best lock in the NRL right now, besides maybe Jason Taumalolo. He's a playmaker. His connection with Tom is unrivaled. They always link up perfectly. The New South Wales Blues always look like a better team and a more dangerous team when he's on the field. Manly, I think if you take Jake out of Manly, that team, you lose the team to me. He's so focal to their attack and their leadership and just in every sense of the word. I can't talk about how much of a great footballer Jake is, so I'll go with Jake Travojevic for my selection.
Yeah, same for me. But I will say Glen Stewart, probably underrated when people think back on him. Like, I think he was a better ball player than Jake Travojevic, but I think overall Jake's a lot better player. Just his defense, he's just, what more can you say about Travojevic? He's just one of the best players.
Yeah, it's one of those things. He's so talented, you can't pinpoint one area of his game. We'll move on to the fan Q&A, guys. I threw up on my Instagram story earlier today asking you guys for some questions for the podcast. Here it is there. You guys have sent them in. Our first question comes from Josh. He wants to know the first coach sacked for 2019. I'm going to go with Brad Arthur for my selection, Josh. I think if the Eels have a slow start to the year, which I don't necessarily think will be the first 5 rounds per se, but I think by the time we get to round 12, round 13, I think the Eels are well at the bottom, and I think Brad Arthur is under some serious pressure because realistically he has used a lot of his best up-and-coming young stars. There's not too much more experimenting he can do with that side. And it is a lot easier to change out one head coach than it is to try to do an entire roster change out, which the Eels have unfortunately already had with Ricky Stewart in 2013 when he sacked 20 or 15 to 20 players at the end of a year. So, yeah, Brad Arthur for me is the coach under the most pressure and most likely to be first sacked.
Yeah, I'll go with Brad Arthur as well. When you first said it, I was trying to think through all the coaches and I was thinking, oh, there's not really anyone that sort of springs to mind. Then you said Brad Arthur, and I thought, of course. But do you think Paul Green could be under a bit of pressure? Like with the Cowboys now,
yeah,
they had a poor season last year. People were expecting them to have a good season this year. Barber's he's gone to shit. Mm-hmm. So now their performance might be a little bit dodgy. Well, do you reckon he might be under pressure this year?
I would say yes, but I would also say they did re-sign him in 2018, I believe, until the end of 2022 or 2023. So it's going to be an expensive move to pay him out. But I also think they signed him on the belief that he is the man to lead them past the post-JT era. In Paul Green's defense, we have to remember, he has just lost the world's best player from that team.
Yep. And then he's just lost England's best player.
Yeah.
Well, not England's best player, but, England's league's best player.
Yeah, former Man of Steel, former Dally M, former Premiership winner. And they only had him on $300K, which is pretty cheap coin. So yeah, Paul Green under pressure, but I don't think he'll be sacked. If you guys want to see a full breakdown on every single NRL coach, I do have a video on my YouTube channel. Feel free to click on it after this. I pretty much just go over every NRL coach and talk how safe they are. I talk how long they're signed for, because that is a big factor in whether they'll be sacked in terms of being paid out. And I also talk about their win-loss percentage, because that's also pretty important factor because you can compare them side by side. Now, our next question comes from Jacob. He says, who replaces Valentine Holmes for State of Origin? I'll let you go first for this one, Luke.
It's got to be Corey Oates, right? Or was Corey Oates already in it? No, he wasn't. I'm thinking Corey Oates. It's got to be Oates or Kyle Felt for sure. Yeah,
they're the two obvious selections for me. You're going to lean with Corey Oates there?
I'll just go with Corey Oates because he's already played. He's already played Origin.
Yep, that's a key reason for me. But an even bigger reason is State of Origin is so high-paced, fast-paced football. You need to give your forwards a break where required. And Corey Oates is formerly a second row. He is able to come in. He has a larger body to come in and have that early hit up. So he will take a little bit off the forwards being there.
And also, I remember he actually played pretty good in Origin, because I remember a lot of people thinking, like, why did he get dropped? But, yeah, I think he definitely get that gig, at least for the first game, barring injury.
Yeah, I think Corey Oates also. And our last Q&A question, also from Jacob. Sorry, guys, I went live on Instagram for about an hour today, so I've answered about 200 questions today, not including the ones that hit my inbox, email, whatever. So just a couple to finish off the podcast. Who replaces Sean Johnson at the New Zealand Warriors, from Jacob Thompson again? I believe it will be Adam Kieran. The other front runner is Chanel Harris to Vita. But I think Adam Kieran, because Sean Johnson is a goal kicker. They've lost him, so they've lost their goal kicker. Adam Kieran is also a goal kicker, and he scored over 200 points for the Penrith Panthers last year in reserve grade. To me, he's probably more ready for the step up than Chanel is. So I'm going to go with Adam Kieran. But with that being said, as me and Luke were talking about earlier, and he brought up, if Kieran's form isn't up to standard, it won't be long before Kearney drops him and makes that change, because you've got CHT sitting there ready to step up. So regardless of which one of them is selected, they need to play good or they will be dropped pretty fast. Who was your choice to replace Sean Johnson, Luke?
I don't really know either of them. That CHT guy's got a cooler name, maybe him. Just either of them. I don't really care. Whoever's cheaper on Supercoach.
Yeah, I'm certainly tipping whoever does fill Sean Johnson's boots to potentially win Rookie of the Year. Because they're going to be there for, if they play well, they're going to be there for 25 rounds. Whereas
that is true, yeah.
All rookies are there for the whole season, so...
At least you know straight away that there's definitely going to be a rookie. Like, you know straight up they're going to be in the side.
They're going to be for consideration, yeah.
Yeah, rather than waiting 10 rounds in and then them finally getting to go.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. That is going to wrap up League Lane with Dane, the 10th episode, double digits. Mum, I've made it. I've come a long way. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode.
I haven't.
Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. And if you did, go through and leave the comment. Put it on the Facebook page now, the Instagram, or the YouTube comments, and I'll try to get back to you all. Thank you guys for watching. All my social media stuff, you can see it's splattered all over the screen. You can't miss it. I'll hand over to you, Luke, to plug your YouTube and say goodbye to our fans at home.
So, my YouTube channel, I do rugby league videos, rugby league gaming videos, just rugby league videos in general. It's MrLuke Sports. If you just try to MrLuke, it will come up. On my Twitter and Instagram, MrLuke on YT. Yeah, MrLuke was taken. And I think that's really it. That's the end of it. My plugging is terrible.
Sweet. Thanks for being here, guys. I hope you enjoyed the podcast.